I understand a party is going to look at one issue and the other party is going to look at it the way they will, but let's focus in on your comment about, if the Democrats tell you we're trying to take away pre-existing conditions, they're not being honest.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that the Republicans have come up with plans that will continue to protect that. However, you've never been successful in getting it passed.
Yeah.
Getting it through. So that's where this issue comes in. If you're going to repeal one law without having another one ready to go and implemented, essentially you are doing that.
No, this is where I'm just going to respectfully disagree, and that is in Congress, we always had the second bill ready, and we could have passed that. But you can't do that until you've been able to repeal the original bill.
Why are you so confident you could have been able to pass that, though?
Well, because we knew we had the votes. We had the Republican majority and a Senate majority, and we knew we
if you take a look at the Affordable Care Act, one of the biggest problems is it had no Republican support.
Yeah.
So are we just going to continue to go in this cycle every time the pendulum of power swings? We're going to continue to reinvent the...
That would have been obviously not our intention nor our desire. But your question was, and the supposition was, you were going to repeal Obamacare, and we always had the replacement plan ready to go. We could not, look, it was a harder vote to repeal Obamacare than it was to vote on the replacement. Again, we had Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican President. We were confident we could have immediately voted for the replacement plan.
If it goes through the courts and gets dismantled that way, what happens with the Republican plan?
Well, I think that's the worst case scenario, is for the court to rule it unconstitutional, because then we're behind on the political process. And honestly, we don't have the majority in the House right now. I mean, Ms. Pelosi would be making that decision. If we have a Republican majority in the House, in the future, hopefully our own party and our own leadership has anticipated that vote and is prepared to replace it at that time. Yeah, thanks.
In the last few weeks of this, the polling shows you enjoy a very comfortable lead. Are you just cruising?
No, you never cruise. And of course you expect me to say that. The last thing in the world I'm going to say, because I don't feel that way, is, you'd have to be a terrible politician to say, yeah, we're just cruising. We know we're going to win. No big deal. But we sincerely work really hard on this. I think we have a responsibility to work really hard. I have a responsibility to the people in the district to make myself available, to explain my views, to explain why I hope that they would agree with me. So we always run hard, and I always will. And by the way, we don't know what the actual polling is. We've done our own internal polling, but we've seen very little polling outside of that. In fact, I don't know that I've seen any. So
the one that got you on the debate floor.
Yeah.
Threshold is one that shows you enjoying a very comfortable moment.
Yeah.
Possibly 20, almost 30 points ahead.
Yeah, and so I forgot that one. I'm sorry, but I'm not aware of any other. And Ben, I'd be interested if you are aware of another one that I've just missed. But again, we never take that for granted. And the day you do is the day you're going to lose and embarrass yourself.
Representative, you were very clear on your stance on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Adding members to
Could I have made myself any more clear on that?
One thing I'd like to ask you is, would we be here having that conversation if Republicans would have taken up Garland in 2016?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we would have been here or not. We probably would, actually, because there's been, several openings since then. And I think we would have ended up in exactly the same place we are right now. Anytime you have a vacancy in the last year of a president's term, I think you're going to find yourself in this kind of controversial and kind of divisive environment. It's happened 29 times, and I think it's probably much the same in not all of those, but probably in many of them.
So I guess I would ask the same question I asked about healthcare. Are we just going to continue to go back and forth every time the power swings in Washington?
Well, again, I hope not. And if they don't pack the court, we won't, because then if there's a vacancy, the party who's in the majority is going to be able to fill that vacancy. The party who owns the White House or controls the White House is going to be able to fill that vacancy. So I think it's a little bit different in the sense that vacancies aren't like legislation. You can repeal legislation. You can't repeal an appointment to the Supreme Court. It's a lifetime appointment. So I think I get the sense of what you're asking, but I do think that there are some, pretty meaningful differences between the two analogies, though, or the two examples.
I just want to follow up on my question about public lands. How do you respond to the criticism that the bill to create the sixth national park is destined to fail and kind of an election stunt leading up?
Oh, look, that's easy. These things are hard. I mean, suicide prevention took us 4.5 years. The coalition we built over the wild horse and burros is a 7 or 8 year effort. The work we're doing on fairness for all, based on the compromise, we know that's going to be a long, long road, and we anticipate the same thing for the national park. Very few things go through Congress in one session, and we're willing to do the work to keep at it. But we know it's going to take some time.
Representative, we've already mentioned the Republican nature of your district. However, there's a portion of Salt Lake City that is very Democratic. How do you view your responsibility of representing them as well?
Yeah, look, that's a great question, and it's one that I answer, and I'm really serious about this, very sincere, but it's very difficult in the sense that remember Bernie Sanders won in the presidential election in Utah in 2016. Look, he's an avowed socialist. He has been his entire life. There isn't much that he and I agree on. And the reason I point that out is to say some of those folks in Salt Lake City disagree with me on almost everything. We just see the world differently. But I still feel like I have responsibility for them to know that I'm going to listen to them and to give them opportunities to at least express their views and actually try to understand them, which is, again, why I mentioned this town hall. 1,300 people there. They were angry, but I felt a responsibility to do that. We do that all the time. Meet with people in the avenues in West Valley, in Magna. But it's more than just showing up, Glenn, because, I mean, it'd be easy to just show up and I could sit there and read a book or take phone calls. You got to actually listen to them. And you got to help them understand, I understand your point of view. We may disagree, but I understand your point of view. And I just think any representative has a responsibility to do that.
Can you share an example of how you've done that?
Well, I think I did tonight. I mean, the Fairness for All is a bipartisan effort. Well, wait, I'm going to stop myself. An example of how I've tried to listen to people, is that what you're asking?
And come to understand their perspective more.
Well, again, I'm going to continue. Fairness for All is a great example of that. I mean, that started with conversations from some LGBTQ activists who I listened to them and I thought they've got a great point. Isn't there something we could do that would protect their legitimate concern about discrimination in the public sphere, housing, employment, the ability to sit on a jury, and at the same time, affect what was an important issue for some other people, and that's religious liberty. And I think that's a good example. That started from conversations of listening to people.
Let's take a question now from a Zoom participant.
Hi, Representative Stewart. This is Emily Means from KUER. I wanted to go back to healthcare if I can. I mean, obviously it's something that's on a lot of people's minds with the pandemic. And, Utah has fully expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes has signed onto a lawsuit to repeal the law. And, just now you've said the Republican Party has a plan if the ACA is repealed regarding pre-existing conditions. But I'm wondering what the plan is for Utahns who now have coverage under Medicaid through the ACA if the Affordable Care Act is repealed.
Yeah. So look, it's hard for me to say how the Supreme Court is going to rule on this. But if they do, my expectation would be that they would give Congress time to put a replacement in place. They're not going to rule on a Tuesday and have Obamacare, the ACA, go away on Wednesday morning. Again, my expectation from those who are experts in the court proceedings would say they would give us time to formulate a replacement and to have time to work that through the political process. And I certainly hope that would be the case. We good? Okay. Thanks, everyone.